November, Friday, 3rd of November, 11 a.m. Been thinking about Mark. Jude suggested I should have a dinner party and invite him. Brilliant idea. Have bought marvellous new recipe book by Marco Pierre White. At last understand the simple difference between home cooking and restaurant food. As Marco says, it is all to do with concentration of taste. The secret of sauces, of course, apart from taste concentration, lies in real stock. One must boil up large pans of fish bones, chicken carcass, etc., then freeze them in form of ice stock cubes. This will be the menu. Veloute of celery, very simple and cheap when have made stock. Char grilled tuna on veloute of cherry tomatoes coulis with confit of garlic and fondant potatoes. Confit of oranges, Grand Marnier crème anglaise. Will be marvellous. Will become known as brilliant but apparently effortless cook. Mark Darcy will be very impressed and will realise I am not common or incompetent. Thursday, 9th of November. Excited about the dinner party. Fixed for a week on Tuesday. This is the guest list. Jude, vile Richard, Sharon, Tom, pretentious Jerome, Magda, Jeremy, me, Mark Darcy. Mark seemed very pleased when I rang him up. "What are you going to cook?" he said. "Are you good at cooking?" "Oh, you know," I said. "Actually, I usually use Marco Pierre White. It's amazing how simple it can be if one goes for a concentration of taste." Saturday, 11th of November. Tom has disappeared. Sharon rang saying thought she'd seen him from the window of the taxi on Thursday night, wandering around Ladbroke Grove with his hands over his mouth, and she thought a black eye. She left 2 messages for him yesterday, asking if he was okay, but had had no reply. I suddenly realised as she spoke that I had left a message for Tom myself on Wednesday, asking if he was around at the weekend, and he hadn't replied, which is not like him at all. Frantic phoning ensued. Tom's phone just rang and rang. So I called Jude, who said she hadn't heard from him either. I tried Tom's pretentious Jerome, nothing. Jude said she'd ring Simon, who lives in the next street to Tom, and get him to go round. She called back 20 minutes later, saying Simon had rung Tom's bell for ages and hammered on the door, but no reply. 3:30 p.m, wild thoughts ranging through head. Start to wonder whether I'm really a good friend. We're all so busy and selfish in London. Would it be possible for one of friends to be so unhappy that they... Oh, that's where I put this month's Marie Claire, on top of fridge. 5 p.m. Just called Jude again. "Do you think we should call the police and get them to break in?" I said. "I already rang them," said Jude. "What did they say?" I couldn't help feeling secretly annoyed that Jude had rung the police without clearing it with me first. I am Tom's best friend, not Jude. They didn't seem very impressed. They said to call them if we hadn't heard anything by Monday. "Something's wrong, though, I just know it," I said in a mysterious, loaded voice, realising for the first time what an intensely instinctive and intuitive person I am. 7 p.m. Extraordinary. After spoke to Jude, could not face shopping or similar light-hearted things, so did some tidying up. Was just getting a plant pot out of the cupboard under sink when heard a jangling sound. I suddenly hit myself hard on the forehead. They were Tom's spare keys from when he went to Ibiza. I rang Jude and we decided we'd get Sharon to come as well. None of us spoke or looked at each other as we walked up the front steps. "Should you ring first?" whispered Sharon as I lifted the key to the lock. "I'll do it," said Jude. She looked at us quickly, then pressed the buzzer. We stood in silence. Nothing. I was just about to slip the key in the lock when a voice on the end said, "Hello?" "Who's that?" I said tremulously. "Who do you think it is, you daft cow?" "Tom!" I bellowed joyfully. "Let us in!" "Who's us?" he said suspiciously. "Me, Jude and Sharon." "I'd rather you didn't come up, hon, to be honest," "Oh, bloody hell," said Sharon, pushing past me. "Tom, you silly bloody queen. You've only had half London up in arms ringing the police, combing the metropolis for you because no one knows where you are." "I don't want anyone except Bridget," said Tom petulantly. I beamed beatifically at the others. "Don't be such a prima bloody donna," said Sharon. Silence. "Come on, you silly sod, let us in." There was a pause, then the buzzer went. "Are you ready for this?" came his voice as we reached the top floor and he opened the door. All three of us cried out. Tom's whole face was distorted, hideous yellow and black, and encased in plaster. "Tom, what happened to you?" I cried, clumsily trying to embrace him and ending up kissing his ear. Jude burst into tears and Sharon kicked the wall. "Don't worry, Tom," she growled. "We'll find the bastards who did this." "What happened?" I said again, tears beginning to plop down my cheeks. "Well," said Tom, extracting himself awkwardly from my embrace. "Actually, I had a nose job." Turned out Tom had secretly had the operation on Wednesday, but was too embarrassed to tell us. He was supposed to have been looked after by Jerome. When, however, creepy Jerome saw him after the operation, he was so repulsed he said he was going away for a few days. Poor Tom was so depressed and traumatised, and so weird from the anaesthetic that he just unplugged the phone, hid under the blankets and slept. In spite of our high spirits that he was alive, he was still very unhappy about Jerome. "Nobody loves me," he said. But 2 Bloody Marys later, he was laughing at Jerome's obsessive use of the term self-aware and his skin-tight calf-length Calvin Klein underpants. Meanwhile, Simon, Michael, Rebecca, Magda, Jeremy and a boy claiming to be called Elsie had all rung to see how he was. And no, we're all psychotic, single and completely dysfunctional. And it's all done over the phone, Tom slurred sentimentally. But it's a bit like a family, isn't it? Tuesday, 21st of November, 5 p.m. Entire day has turned into nightmare. Richard Finch gave me a real blowing up at the morning meeting in front of everyone. "Bridget, put that recipe book away, for God's sake! Fireworks burns kids. I'm thinking maiming. I'm thinking happy family celebrations turned into nightmares. What about that kid who had his penis burnt off by bangers in his pockets back in the 60s? Where is he now? Bridget, find the fireworks kid with no penis. Find me the 60s Guy Fawkes bobbit." I was just grumpily making my 48th phone call to find out if there was a burnt-off penis victim support group when my phone rang. "Hello, darling. Is Mummy here?" She sounded unusually high-pitched and hysterical. "Hi, Mum." "Hello, darling. Just called to say bye before I go and hope everything goes well." "Go where?" "Oh, I told you. Julie and I are popping over to Portugal for a couple of weeks, just to get a bit of a suntan before Christmas." "You didn't tell me." "Oh, don't be a silly willy, darling. Of course I told you. Anyway, do take care, won't you?" "Yes." "Oh, darling, just one more thing." "What?" "For some reason I've been so busy I forgot to order my traveller's cheques from the bank." "Oh, don't worry. You can get them at the airport." "But the thing is, darling, I'm just on my way to the airport now, and I've forgotten my banker's card." I looked at the phone. "Such a nuisance. I was wondering, you couldn't possibly lend me some cash? I mean, not much, just a couple of £100. The way she said it reminded me of the way winos ask for money for a cup of tea. "I'm ever so close. If you just popped out to the Nut West opposite, I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. She gabbled. "Super, darling. Bye." "Bridget, where the fuck are you off to?" yelled Richard as I tried to sneak out. "You found the banger bobbit boy yet?" "Got a hot tip," I said, tapping my nose, then made a dash for it. I was waiting for my money to come, freshly baked and piping hot out of the cash point, when I spotted her scurrying towards me, wearing sunglasses and looking shiftily from side to side. "Oh, there you are, darling. Thank you very much. Moustache, going to miss the plane. Bye," she said, grabbing the banknotes from my hand. 7 p.m. Just got home. Must cook dinner for guests. Right. Calm, inner poise. 8:30 p.m. All going marvellously. Guests are all in living room. Mark Darcy is being very nice and brought champagne and a box of Belgian chocolates. 9 p.m. Celery soup tasted like bowl of boiled cream. Right, we'll start on veloute of cherry tomatoes. 9:15 p.m. Oh dear. Think there must have been something in the blender, e.g. fairy liquid, as cherry tomato puree seems to be foaming and 3 times original volume. Just looked in fridge and tuna is not there. What has become of tuna? What? 9:30 p.m. Thank God. Jude and Mark came in kitchen and helped me make big omelette and put the recipe book on the table so we could all look at the pictures of what char-grilled tuna would have been like. At least orange confit will be good. Looks fantastic. Tom said not to bother with Grand Marnier crème anglaise, but nearly drink Grand Marnier. 10 p.m. Sad. Looked expectantly round table as everyone took first mouthful of confit, which had prepared yesterday. There was an embarrassed silence. "What's this, hun?" said Tom eventually. "Is it marmalade?" No sooner was the horrible meal cleared away than the phone went. It was Dad. "I'm sorry, Bridget. I'm afraid there's been some rather bad news." What? "Your mother and Julio are wanted by the police." Had to sit down and get my breath back while Dad said, "Bridget, Bridget, Bridget, Bridget," over and over again in manner of a parrot. "What's happened?" I managed to get out eventually. "I'm afraid they have defrauded a large number of people out of a great deal of money." "What did they do?" "Apparently Julio, using your mother as it were, front man, has relieved Una and Geoffrey, Nigel and Elizabeth, Malcolm and Eileen, oh my God, Mark's parents, of quite considerable sums of money. Many, many thousands of pounds, as down payments on timeshare apartments, which never existed. Not a penny of your mother's and my savings or pension fund remains. And she has remortgaged the house. We are ruined, destitute and homeless, Bridget, and your mother is to be branded a common criminal." After that he broke down. Una came to the phone saying that she was going to give Dad some Ovaltine. Replacing the receiver, I slumped against the wall. Immediately, though, Jude appeared. I told her the whole story. She didn't say a word, but immediately went and fetched Mark. "I blame myself," he said, running his hands through his hair. "What do you mean?" I heard him talking at the Tarts and Vickers party on his portable phone by the herbaceous border. He started to pace around the room, firing questions like a top barrister. "What's being done to find your mother? What are the sums involved? How did the matter come to light? What is the police's involvement?" It was pretty sexy, I can tell you. Wednesday, 22nd of November. Oh, thank God. Dad has had a phone call from Mum. The police were at Una and Geoffrey's tapping the phone line and said she definitely was calling from Portugal, but they didn't manage to get where. So much wish Mark would ring. Was obviously completely put off by culinary disasters and criminal element in family, but too polite to show it at time. Saturday, 25th of November. I'm going to see Dad this afternoon. 1 p.m. Hooray! 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 Just as I was leaving, I had a phone call. It was Mark from Portugal. Just incredibly kind and brilliant of him. Apparently, he has been talking to the police all week in between being top barrister and flew out to Albufeira yesterday. The police over there found Mum, and Mark thinks she will get off because it would be pretty obvious she had no idea what Julio was up to. They haven't found Julio yet.